I am very excited to share this little art lesson with you, and it is inspired by the connection that we have with our family and our friends, and maintaining that connection whether we see them on a regular basis or not. So I wanted to kind of weave together a few ideas and put it into a collage, but also have a little personal sketch in there as well. So I want to go over the materials first, and I will walk you through step by step. Please don't feel you have to use the exact same material. Since it's a collage, you can substitute anything in and work with what you have on hand. So the first thing I have here is I have some cotton muslin, and it started out white, and then I dyed it with an avocado pit. And we're only going to use a little piece, but I'm going to walk you through that process. And I have some embroidery thread in the same color. I was kind of inspired by this very pretty color. And I have a needle, and then over here I have this tiny little photograph that I found in with my vintage papers, and I don't know if it's sisters or friends, but I really liked it and I thought it was fun, and it's kind of what pulled this little idea together. I also found this little piece of dyed cheesecloth that I had that I may use in it, and then I had this gold, it's what needles were kept in. It was from an old sewing kit. And then I have a little piece from a perfume bottle, a perfume package that I had purchased when I was in Paris many, many years ago, and saved the box. So it's Moment Volé, which means fleeting moments. I have a little piece of watercolor paper. It's cold press, and it's cut to the size 3 by 5. Then I have some pieces of vintage paper that I pulled together. This one is, I just took a paintbrush and I dipped it in ink, and I was just playing around, and I like the graphic element of it to kind of balance out the old papers. And then I'm going to use as my substrate a back of a vintage book. So the inside cover, So you can do this in your art journal. You can do it on a piece of watercolor paper, anything you have. And so I'm going to use this because I think it's very pretty. All right, the other supplies, other things that you're going to need if you want to dye some fabric, you need an avocado, and we'll talk about that. All you need really is the stone. So I will walk you through that. And then I have just some charcoal over here, and then I have a few charcoal pencils where you don't need much. I'm going to use the Stabilo, and I have a brown Inktense watercolor pencil, and I have a couple of mechanical pencils and charcoal pencils. So just whatever you have on hand. We're going to use the Stabilo, so having something water soluble will work best. I also, this is optional, I have a little bit of, I think it's permanent rose, and you don't even need to use this, but I'm going to use a little bit of that. And then I have some gold paint, this fluid iridescent deep gold fine. And then off to the side, I have some white gesso by Liquitex, and I have a few different glues, and you can use whatever you have on hand. So I want to show you some options. I'm probably going to be using this Yes paste because it's not very watery, because I want to keep some of the paper more less flat. I guess that's the word I'm looking for, because when you use matte medium on both sides, sometimes it wrinkles up, and I want to try and avoid that. I also have this little glue stick, which comes in handy sometimes to get little corners down. Okay, so that's everything I have. So I think what we'll do is, the first step is we have to take our ripe avocado, peel it, make a piece of avocado toast while you wait for your fabric to dye. So I'll be right back. We'll get started with this step, and then we'll move into the next part. The next step is to peel your avocado, make yourself a piece of avocado toast, add some sea salt, cracked pepper, and a little sriracha sauce if you like hot and spicy, which I do. And then wash your pit or your stone. I think it's called a stone. Wash it really well, and then just put it in some water, and then take your cheesecloth or your cotton and just submerge it into the water, just like so. Then bring the water to a boil. Once it starts boiling, turn it down and just let it simmer there on low for about an hour. You'll see it. The pit will crack open like this one did, and it just starts turning the water kind of this beautiful blushy pink color. And I did this one first, and then I left the water in there, and I did another one. It came out a little bit lighter. So every time I do them, they're a little different. You can also put paper in here too, and then dry your paper. So enjoy that. And I think this is the first time I've ever made a snack in one of my art videos. So enjoy, and I will see you in the next part of the lesson. Okay. The next thing we're going to do is I want to make a little sketch. I make these every once in a while. I'll do little workshops where we create these little petite portraits, and I'm going to demonstrate how I do this. It's a very quick sketch. It's very simple. You can use a photo reference if you want to, but I'm just going to use one of my old sketches. And you can also, in this exercise, if you have a sketch already done in your art journal and you want to tear it out, or something that's laying around, you can use anything. It doesn't have to be a portrait. It can be flowers. It could be anything. So I'm going to start out, I'm using this little mechanical pencil, and I like that she's kind of ooched over to the side. So I'm going to just draw a little line down the center and then cut it so it's in thirds now. So I'm going to just create a very simple eye. I'm not going to labor over it because I'm going to be adding some water soluble, the acrylic, I'm sorry, the Stabilo. Okay, I think her nose is going to be too long for where I put the eyes up here. So I'm just going to put this little tiny base of her nose, and I think I'll bring in the side, and then let's make her lips, and the base of her lip, and under her eye. Okay, so I'm going to go out to the side, and I'm just going to bring in her forehead. Yeah. Bring in her cheekbones. And find her little jaw. Give her some hair. I like this little bun happening here. And I'm going to have her looking kind of out over her shoulder. Okay, I think she might need an ear over here too. Okay. So the next thing I'm going to do is take this Stabilo pencil. Now, using the Stabilo, let me show you. Okay, if you haven't worked with it, it's very, very black and very beautiful, and it moves very easily with water. So I don't want to get too heavy-handed with this, and you can even take some out to the side and use it. But I'm just going to go right along her lash line and just put a light mark over there. And then under her nose, the crease in her lips, and then under her jaw. And this is all going to soften up my lines. They were just really quick little lines. Now I'm going to take this small round, I think it's a 1, and just kind of move it around. And I can always go back in and make it darker. And give her some cheekbones, a little hollow there, and underneath. And I can take out these guidelines if I want to. Now the other thing I can do is take my Stabilo and just make it a little darker, give her a brow, kind of give her a mysterious eye here. So it's just very loose. Need a lip here. So I'm just going to do her top lip and underneath her bottom lip. And if you don't like what's happening, if you just take a paper towel, which I did not bring down, just blot it up with a paper towel. Okay, so now remember I had this brown Inktense pencil, so I'm just going to bring in a little warmth in here. And I have my little bit of watercolor. It's very watered down, and I'm just going to put a little water, and it's going to bleed into the colors, which I like. Okay, I'm just going to do one side. Okay. Just a little bit. Okay, I'm going to take my mechanical pencil and I'm just going to make some marks in here. All right, I think she's done. I like her. And you can just, if you want to do this all in watercolor or use different colors, whatever your color palette is that you like to work with. But they're kind of fun. So you're going to let this dry for a bit and it will probably lighten, and you can go back in and add another coat if you want to. Kind of work on her little bun a little bit more. Okay, so I'm going to set her aside, and then we're going to go to the next section of this project. Okay, while my sketch still needs to dry a little bit more, but I'm going to take this back cover of the book, and I'm going to lay out my collage, and I want to have kind of that ruffly feeling of all the papers kind of stacked up. And to be very honest, I have thought about this. I spent a lot of time playing around with the paper and deciding on how I wanted it to feel, and it's going to appear that I'm just putting it together quickly, and that's really not the case. So I spent a lot of thinking time on this, which I usually do in collage. That's what I like about collage, is just the thinking and bringing the elements together, and just kind of being mindful and slowing down and just allowing the process to kind of guide me. So I have this, I put some clear gesso on top of this piece here. And then I have another piece, and I'm going to put it along the edge. I like this little edge of the paper. And so I have torn off a little piece of this, which I just took it and folded it. And then just take a ruler, place it on your fold so you get a little bit of a raw edge instead of having to just pull. Okay. And I think I wanted it here. Let's see, I'm gonna get rid of that edge. You can just save these little pieces. Nice edge to it, actually. I think I like these little petal shapes. All right, let me put this aside here. I kind of like this one that had the stitching on it that I found after I labored over this for a while. I have this piece of, it's a piece of vintage wallpaper. I'm going to put it down here. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to lay it out first again, just so I can remember what I did. And so I want pieces kind of peeking through. Okay, so now I have this little piece of gold here that I may tear it and use the save part of it. Let's just stick it there for now. And so she is, let's see, so let me get my little piece of fabric that I am going to use. So I tore this so it would be about a little bit smaller than the whole book. Okay, and I'm going to do some stitching on that, but I'm just going to put this here so you can see where I'm going with it. And I think that this is going to come up above that. Maybe, yeah, I think it's below it. And then I found this interesting little piece, which is kind of fun. And I'm going to get my little sisters here, or old friends. And this is kind of where I'm going with it. And then I wanted to capture this here. And then I think I'm going to bring that gold paint in and put a little bit, I was thinking about it, on here. That way I have gold kind of going around in 3 places. And then since we're in this time where we have to kind of sequester ourselves away in our homes and we don't get to connect with people, I just wanted to bring this in, this cheesecloth, kind of as that symbol of how we're quarantined and we're having to, you know, see our friends on Zoom and FaceTime, and you know, there's always like this filter between us that we can't hug each other, and it's just really hard. And so I want to kind of, that's what the whole meaning behind this is, just kind of managing and connecting with those people who we love, and you know, not being, you know, isolating ourselves completely. So I do love this. I have to think about that. But so now this is going to be the composition. So once you lay out your composition, then take a picture of it and then start from the bottom up. And I'm going to put this over here. I love this little picture. I don't remember where I got that. And then I'm going to do some stitching on this piece. So I'm going to start from the bottom and move these out of the way and keep this just in case. And I'm going to take this charcoal pencil and I'm going to put it in my non-dominant hand, and I want to do some marks on it. And since I put clear gesso on it, it's just going to drag nicely about it. And I'm thinking about kind of this emotional connection to this piece and how there's an awkwardness about, like, when you know how when you get on Zoom and you're talking and people talk over each other and you're trying to, it can all be a little bit awkward. So, but the sentiment is there, and you know, you laugh and it's fun, but I want to change hands so that I can just kind of write out some ideas or make some marks on here, and I'm fine to go over and just kind of like these little scribbly marks on here just to add something. And then I'm going to take my brush and I'm just going to move it around a little bit. So you'll need to let that dry. And maybe, oh, I think that's good. So now I'm going to use this Yes paste. And what I like about it is that it doesn't make the paper, there's not a lot of water in it, so the paper is not going to bubble up, and which I always find frustrating when I use matte medium. So I'm going to just add a little thin coat with this palette knife. I really like this, and it lasts a long time, and the great thing is too, you can embed things in it. I glued like a little branch onto a box using it. It's very sturdy, but it's also, you know, it doesn't dry as quickly, and I don't feel as panicked. Like when I use matte medium, I always get a little bit of panic in me when I'm working on it. Okay, so now I'm gonna move this over here. I probably should have waited to do my mark making. I got ahead of myself, but that's okay. So I'm gonna let that dry. And as it dries, I'm gonna do some stitching, I think. But you can see how, even though I had water on this, it's very flat, dries very flat, and I like that. So my suggestion is don't put the water on it before you do it. Just wait till after it. I had not done that before. I don't know why I did that. Okay, this piece is going next. I'm not going to mark on it yet. You know what I have? I have this piece of palette paper here, and I think I'll just use it so this can set. I think I'm going to tear this and save part of it. I find doing a collage, you know, very relaxing, and thoughtful. You can just think about, you know, what it is you're creating and allow it to evolve a bit. And it seems to, you know, change as you keep adding the elements. And I think it's a very mindful piece of art to make. And I especially like bringing in my own artwork. However, you know, if you found like a vintage image, or if you want to just use a photograph of someone who's important to you, you could just put that in. There's just so many options. Okay. Okay, before I glue this down, I am going to just write some things on here with my, it will be hidden up, it will be hidden behind the muslin, and I'll know it's there. So I'm just going to take a minute and just write something about what I'm feeling right now, and I encourage you to do that so that your sentiment is there, how you feel about the importance of the people who are in your lives and staying connected to them. And I know that while we've been going through all of this, you know, my husband's been home and so much, you know, he's been home so much. Usually he's working all the time. So we've been having so many great conversations, and I want to put all like the positive behind this, and you know, the connection with my family and how it's deep. The conversations have become deeper, where there's a lot of nostalgia. There's, you know, we're laughing, we're playing games, we're, you know, having cocktails with friends on Zoom. My book club meets on Zoom. It's like all these things, and you have to find a little bit of humor in it. But I want to jot down like these little fragments of what our conversations are about and what we've been thinking about. So that's what I'm going to do here. So okay, so now I'm going to cover that up. And so just thinking, even as I was writing it, I was just thinking about how Olivia has adjusted so well to the homeschooling, and how she gets up in the morning and gets herself fixed up. However, as we trudge along, she still has jammies on the bottom, but a nice top and eyeliner. So I find that very charming. Okay, put this over here. So I hope you can see how this Yes paste, this is dry on top, and I like that, so I can see that little ruffled edge of the paper. All right, so I think I want to put my little, where did it go? I lost my little perfume label. Oh, here it is. Before this dries, I gotta get this under here. I think I will add some marks in here. throwing pencils around. Make a mess. Okay. All right, so I'm going to let this sit for a little bit, and then I want to go in, and how I want this to happen is I want the stitches, a bunch of stitches, to be at the top and maybe some pieces at the bottom, I think. And I may add some little blobs of white gesso. I'm not sure, but I have it on hand just in case. So I will speed up this part, and so you don't have to fall asleep as I put my little stitches in here. Now you could also put stitches in all the papers too. I was thinking about doing that, but I wanted the stitching mainly to be in the cloth here.